Hi there, this is Karen with Inspired by Graham, and I am bringing you another card using the Reindeer Fun stamp set. This one here is going to be very, very basic in colors. We do add a glimmer paper here in Granny Apple Green that gives it that little sparkle, and it's a fun fold today. All right, so let's get started creating the card. There's not a lot of pieces in this one, and it can be easily mass produced. So what we have here is our basic weight medium envelope, and then we have a panel here that we will stamp on, and then here's the Granny Apple Green glimmer paper, very sparkly. And then I just have a piece of basic white scrap. I've got 5 1/4 by 4 basic weight embossed panel using the Snowflake Sky 3D embossing folder. I'm not sure if you can see the snowflakes, but they are there. And then we have our final piece is a piece of basic weight thick, which is 11 by 4 1/4, and I have scored it at 2 3/4 and 5 1/2. So we're going to be doing our stamping first, and let me grab my piercing mat with some scrap paper on it and find all the pieces that we need to use. So we've got our basic white envelope, we've got our scrap, and we also have that panel. I'm going to start with this one first, and then we'll transition over to the trees. All right, I've got my Granny Apple Green is Cherry Cobbler ink, and I'm going to add the sentiment Merry Christmas towards the bottom. And it's about, I'm going to try to make it about 1/4 inch from the bottom this time and give more space for the trees. Okay, I'm going to try to stamp one more time. Got 2 sides to every paper, so I'm going to try to give it a shot. There, that's much better, so we'll use this side. All right, so that is all done. We don't need the Cherry Cobbler ink anymore, so I'm going to close this and put it out of sight. Next up are the trees. So I'm going to grab my tree here, which is on a B block. The inks are going to be Granny Apple Green along with Garden Green. I'm going to stamp the tree, a single tree, on this scrap piece of basic white. And it doesn't matter where I stamp it as long as it will fit here. Let me see if it's going to fit. Yep. All right, so we'll be die cutting this one out. The other one is going to be, I'm going to stamp again, but we are going to hide it with the die cut piece. But I want to put this one right in the middle. Okay, so we have that one in the middle. Let me clean my stamp set. I like using our Stampin' Mist along with our Stampin' Scrub. I've had these forever, like since 2012. So a long, long time. Okay, let's transition over to Granny Apple Green. I love the Granny Apple Green because it's such a bright color. And I'm just going to stamp a little bit closer, but not touching, I don't think. I'm gonna drop this one down a little bit so it's not the same height. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Okay, so there, actually got those at the same height. Doesn't matter. I'm going to cover that middle one up anyway with the die cut image. Let's bring in the envelope, and we are going to stamp Granny Apple Green over top. So that one now is in the distance. And then this one too. Okay, so we also have to stamp our trees on the inside of the card. I love trees, so you guys all know that. Well, I just inked up in Granny Apple Green. I wanted to do the Garden Green, stamp the Garden Green one first, but we're gonna give it a try. I want to make this one a little bit lower if we can. And now let's clean our stamp, and then we will move over to Garden Green. Lots of greens today. And now we're going to stamp the tree and Garden Green right in the middle. Okay, so those are all done. we need to add the message here. So I guess we're not done with our cherry cobbler ink. Let's open that one up and we'll grab our message and add that right in the inside of the card. Okay, now are we done? I think we're done. No, we're not, because guess what? We're gonna flip that over and we are going to add happiness inside in Granny Apple Green. This stamp, I'll show you this set in just a second. Let me get this stamped. This one comes from the Sharing Loving Crafting stamp set. Item number, if you're interested, is 164902. And this one has your Angel Policy copyright stamp. So if you're selling your cards or any products made with Stampin' Up, you need to have this on somewhere stamped. It also has some different messages too. Crafting with you in mind, just brighten your day. Sharing what I love, loving what I do, and then handcrafted by, and you can just sign. So it's a really fun stamp set, and it's great to have in your craft room for many, many years to come. Okay, let's close these up. That way we won't make a mess. And I'm gonna die cut that single tree out, and then we can assemble the card. I like to use my mini cut and emboss for this step. I've got my little die cut for the tree, and find this here. Actually, I'll just use this for a second. All right, we're gonna put this on our tree and center it on the die. Die gets centered as best as it can. All right, so that one's all set. Let me grab my mini cut and emboss machine. I like having this on my desk. It's very convenient to have. It's small, great Christmas present. If you're looking for a die cutting machine, this one should be on your list. It's super fun to use. All right, so I've got my plate number 1 and then plate number 2. Then we will bring in the cardstock and the die. So we're creating our sandwich. And then the final step is to add another plate number 2. So we've got our little sandwich together. And then we're gonna push this in until that handle moves. And then I'm transitioning my right hand over to the handle and I'm gonna crank it through. And you'll hear some crunching noises, but that's just perfectly fine. It's doing its job. We're gonna close this back up. We'll put it over to the side here. And then let's see how well I die cut. Hopefully good, and I don't have to redo it. Not too bad. That one's actually pretty good than the one I did previously in the day. All right, don't lose that die. I'm gonna just set it over to the side. And now we get to assemble our card. So I actually like to work on my piercing mat with this or my silicone craft sheet, which I have no clue where it is. I'm going to add a Stampin' Dimensional to the back side of this one here. So let me find them. Got a new sheet here. That's always fun when you have a new sheet. I'll press that down, and then I'm going to take my piercing tool and just remove the backing. I'm going to set that aside, so that one is all done. Let's take our card base here, and we have that score line at the 2 3/4. So I'm going to move it or fold it back over on its side. Let's bring in our bone folder just to give it a nice little burnish here. It lays flat for us. So far so good, right? This is super easy. A beginner can actually create this card very easily. Let's see, what else do we need? Okay, we can add this stamped panel to our glimmer paper, and I like to use either our Seal Plus or liquid glue for this step when I'm adding any kind of embossed panels or paper onto like glimmer paper. It needs really strong adhesive because of the roughness of the glimmer paper. Make sure that's centered here. Okay, I'm gonna flip it over, and that way if I have some ink on my hands, my fingers, it will get transferred to the back side rather than the front side, and then I'd have to start all over again. Okay, I think that's good. I'm going to set this aside just to give it a little bit more time to dry. In the meantime, let's grab our glue again, and we're going to adhere our glue about 1/2 of an inch in from the edges. And then we bring in our embossed panel with the 3D Snowflake Sky 3D embossing folder. I've been using that a lot during the month of December. I'm going to press that really good. And then it opens up like this. Okay, let's add our focal point. We will add our dimensionals to the back side of this panel here, the focal point. I'm going to give it a little bit of height and dimension. Make sure they're pressed on there really well. And then we'll grab our piercing tool to remove the backings. Let's add this to the front of the card. You want to center it best you can. And then I'm going to flip it over and press from this side. Again, just in case I have any remnants of ink on it, I don't get it transferred onto the front side. So that's it. I'm not going to put any embellishments on it. You can add Wink of Stella, which I would highly suggest doing because you have the glimmer paper. Because right now those trees look a little matted. So if I bring in my Wink of Stella, I can just color in the star here. Make sure there's enough in the barrel to do this. Just squeeze it a little bit. And then I'm just going to pounce onto the trees with the tip of the Wink of Stella. And we can't forget we have to do this on the other trees on the inside. Make everything coordinating. Just bring it back and forth, left and right, pounce on it. And then our envelope. Squeeze a little bit more into that barrel. And that was way too much, so let me just brush that off. And then pounce. If you have too much on your brush, it will make kind of a mess. So just be careful when you're squeezing the Wink of Stella into the barrel there and it goes into that brush. It can come out as a huge drop, and that could potentially ruin your project, and you'd have to start all over again, which I almost had to do, but I grabbed it in my hands, and I'll go wash those in just a little bit. Okay, give it a little bit more love here. And then make sure you clean your brush, because you could have some remnants of the green inks, and we'll cap it. And that is it. So let's bring in, there's our envelope. Here is our card. And then we had made 2 other cards earlier in the week using Reindeer Fun and the Reindeer Days Designer Series paper. Here's the first one. It's got the gold bells on there with the peppermint dots, which are on back order again. They were available yesterday for a very short time, and then they are on back order once again. This here is heat embossed with white, and then on the inside, Merry Christmas with the bells. Don't forget to look at our last chance products, because you will find that some of them, or most of them, are on sale. Reindeer Days 12x12 Designer Series paper here in front of you. Item number 164166. Normally it's $12.50, but you can purchase it today for $10, and it's while supplies last. So head over to inspiredbygraham.com, hit the shop now button, and then you can shop all day long. Oh, I did forget something. I just looked on my desk, the little tree. So what I wanted to do here is put the tree on so it has a little dimension. And the reason why I stamped on the front here is because it's going to be higher than the rest, and you can still see it underneath too. And it just gives a little 3D effect. So sorry about that, but there you go. That's our finished card, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. I would happily answer them for you. Thanks so much for watching. Happy holidays.